Hey guys, welcome to the Our Anime Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about our feelings on summer 2016 for the whole season, not just the beginning again. So this week, for this episode, we have Fate Steel Taylor,
Yes, I am Fate.
and we have 17 writers,
Hello.
and I'm Smurfrock Rune. So I guess we could just get into this and talk about the show that everybody was talking about. Just talk about ReZero. So what did you guys think about ReZero? Did you hate it? Was it overhyped?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard for it not to be overhyped. Like, I would have to have a really high opinion of that show for it not to have been overhyped.
It was definitely overhyped. But I liked it though. Even
yeah, I did enjoy it.
Mhm.
I think that there were a lot of places in which it kind of squandered potential that it had.
Mhm.
It had a lot of moments where it could have been way more interesting than it was, but it wasn't bad for that. It was just less good than it could have been, I felt, for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with a show like this, you have to. I mean, it's almost necessary to factor the hype out of it. Kind of like with
Yeah.
recent popular shows like Bokumachi or Erased. So you kind of have to like,
Mhm.
when it comes to hype, you kind of have to start again from zero with the show. But yeah, I think you hit it right on the money. It's a show that had more potential than it otherwise should have for its premise. Like there were certain lines in there that were really good, really, really good. Just like out of there, one of the lines I really liked was, "It's so much better to hear thank you once than sorry 100 times," which is like, wow, that's
Yeah.
like a really good sentiment. But it comes like
Yeah.
out of nowhere in the show, and they don't like they kind of address it, but like it doesn't fit the show as well as the
Yeah,
writing
and then-
does.
The show definitely.
And then
had-
Amelia calling out Subaru on his shit was great. And honestly, his emotional breakdown arc, I feel like, was where the show was at its strongest in a lot of ways.
I
Um,
okay. I preferred the beginning, like the first core, the stuff that aired in spring. I liked
Really?
that it had like kind of a mystery to it. Yeah, like you didn't really know what was happening, and you're like, oh, well,
okay.
why? Like, because I mean, we all know the synopsis of like he dies and he keeps coming back. So I really
Yeah.
liked that there was like a mystery to it. Like you didn't know who was killing him or how or why, and there was like a little like an arc of him trying to figure it out. And I thought that was the most interesting part of the show. I was looking forward to more of that, but it kind of did a thing where like each arc was like vastly different than the others.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I think the arcs were mostly the same, like rating wise. Like we got through what,
Mhm.
2.5 to almost three
I think
arcs.
Three. I don't know if this is the end of the third arc. I don't know if they actually
Yeah.
did it or not.
From-
I'm not sure. I'm always awful at that. I never know like
Yeah, I've
where
I've heard from
arc
people
endings should be.
that they ended this not quite where the arc ending is.
Right. There's
Because
a
I
little
was,
more.
Yeah, because I complained a little bit about how I felt like the ending didn't have enough weight to me, and someone said that the actual arc ending for where they launch into the next one
It's supposed to be a
gives
huge
more
cliff.
Yes.
to it.
Yes.
Yes.
We can't talk about that.
I do know. I
Yeah.
know what it. I know what it is.
Mhm.
I did read it because I was curious.
I-
I'm glad they didn't do that because it was like
Yeah,
right
that
after
would have
the
been
anime
a.
ending was like another few lines that would just be like a huge cliffhanger and it would have just pissed off a lot of people. So I kind of
Yeah.
like them ending right before that. So then like the next season, if it gets one, I'm assuming it will at some point. They can start it off immediately with like a huge reveal.
Right.
And everyone's like, "Oh wow! Oh, I can't believe this is happening." Let's see how this gets resolved.
Okay,
We'll see.
that makes sense.
I like that. I like that way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like discounting even the ending, like a lot of the characters I thought had some good potential. I thought Amelia had like really good potential, and then they kind of just squandered it by her not like being like present at all in
Yeah,
the third arc.
I honestly think that they do a lot with Amelia through her absence, though, and I'm interested to see more of her if more comes out.
Right.
Because just kind of like hearing about Amelia, especially through like that last Subaru suffering arc or whatever, just from the sidelines and kind of seeing how she operates, but from a distance, I personally thought that was really cool.
Right.
So right now she's honestly one of my favorite characters, even though she's been really underused.
In ReZero or like ever?
In ReZero.
I was gonna say, but like I think that's another reason. I think they handle absence well. Like they like with Rem not being like Rem was very prominent in the second and the first half of the third arc, but when she's not there, I thought they did a good job of like handling that as well.
Yeah.
And it was the thing with Rem was I felt like she had like the most potential of being like I like didn't know her name. I didn't care about her at all for
the
like the
longest time.
first.
I didn't know which maid was which.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just like did not care. And I think that's what she was like, there's so many like maid characters who are just there for I guess appearances. But she like builds up for a little while and then she has that one like really like wow, this is like oh man, this is like really good. And then like I was like, okay, now I know who she is. Like maybe she'll get even better.
Yeah. And then she's just a one-note character for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Well, I thought one thing I did like about ReZero, I thought it did a good job of having characters like they'd show up early on and then they'd leave for a while and then they'd show back up again and another character would leave and then that character would come back later. I think it did a good job of like cycling through its cast instead of just having like what's a show? I'm trying to think of like an example of a show that I can't think of one, but there'll be a show where they'll introduce like 5 characters and it's like, okay, well these 3 are the main characters. I hope you didn't like these other 2 because you're never going to see them again. Gone forever now. And I mean, it happened sometimes in ReZero, but not for like the characters that it tried to build focus on. Like, there was I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. A character doesn't show up later, but there was a that Elsa that people really like, and it was like, like she showed up, she fulfilled her purpose, and then she was gone. Like there wasn't really like a reason for her to show up again, so it's not like they just like blue balled you with it, but it
would have been nice to see her again.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with Reinhardt in that first arc.
He showed up again though. He had
but like he didn't really have like a part per se.
Well, I mean, okay, I think.
But like the thing is, like I guess it would be more addressed later if they went further in the arc.
Like his role, I think, is going to be like arc 4 maybe, like, and like I'm sure like the characters from like earlier, like Elsa or I don't know, some other characters. I'm sure they'll show up later in the story.
Right.
That's kind of a problem with having an incomplete adaptation is that you can't really. I mean, and you can't fault it for like it's like, oh, this character never showed up again. It's like, I mean, they just didn't get to it. Like,
I mean, the show is caught up to the light novels.
Yes.
And there's only the web novels left, and the web novels are also not complete.
Yes. So the web novels, I think the author said he wants it to be 10 arcs, and he's currently writing 7 or 8, I think.
I don't know. But like the other ones are really, really long.
Yeah, apparently 5 and 6 separately are each longer than the first 3.
Oh,
like
wow.
Combined. Okay. Yeah. And like the third arc is very long too.
Yeah, it was like a whole core.
Yeah. It's just with ReZero, it's a lot of people also talked about like one thing I did appreciate about ReZero is especially in this season, its production values didn't really drop off. Especially animation-wise, unlike a few other shows.
A few other shows,
might talk about soon that are named after incorrect produce. That'll make way more sense when we get to it. I'm sorry, that's just something dumb I came up with last night.
You could have just said you came up with it now, Smurf. But yeah, no, I mean, I did appreciate that. The one thing I am really like kind of like disappointed and like mad and exasperated about is apparently White Fox didn't think it was worth sitting on the production chair or the production committee for this anime, so they don't like get any extra like money depending on how well it's sold or anything.
Oh.
They don't get like any of the profits. They got like a strict budget, and like whatever was left from however much they worked on it is how much money they get. And it's like because I really like White Fox, because they did a great job with Steins Gate.
I like
a great job with Tanagatari.
I like all of their shows I've seen.
And yeah, and it was just disappointing to hear that. I mean, like, I don't think it affected the show at all. But yeah, it is kind of disappointing.
I don't think it's like a huge thing. It's just kind of like,
Right.
oh, that's kind of a shame, but
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
I
just
guess
that's how it is.
even with that, I'm even more surprised then that they were able to keep up their production values, knowing that no matter how good there was, they weren't going to be getting extra money.
Right.
Well, I mean, maybe they're thinking in the future, like
Right.
Yeah, they're thinking that they sell themselves as this
did a
good
second
studio.
season. I don't know how it works. I don't know if they can sit on the production committee for the second season. Be like,
Right,
yo,
I'm
we're not
sure they
missing out on
could.
this time.
Right. It would just cost a ton of money for them, but I'm sure they could. But yeah, I think overall, like ReZero, like minus the hype, was like a solid show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Some episodes were a lot better than others, but like overall, like I enjoyed
Yeah.
watching it airing. I have
Yeah,
it
there
as
were
a 7 right now.
I
Yeah,
give it
there were
an
periods
8.
where I definitely wasn't a fan of it, but there were also periods where I was highly enjoying it. It's, I think, like one of my highest rated 6s now, I think.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, it's like 3 down in my 6s, which I rate harshly, so that's not a bad score for the show.
Right. Yeah, especially because it didn't try to be like an amazing show.
Yeah,
It tried to be like a very standard show that had more.
Yeah,
exactly.
I find it kind of weird
and
though.
it definitely succeeded at that.
I find it kind of weird though, that we basically got. I don't know. This could be completely incorrect, but this is just based on what I've heard from like friends. Apparently, Konosuba is the parody of a race of ReZero. I mean, like apparently it was. I heard that the authors are friends,
Yeah, they are definitely friends.
and one was writing ReZero, and the other one decided I'm gonna parody your novel with my own, and wrote Konosuba. So I find it weird we get the parody, and then we get the show that it's actually making fun of the next season.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but that's really funny, and I like that connection.
There's
I mean, if you
actually,
know, like they both have tracksuits.
Yeah, true.
there's a really great preview. I forget for which episode. It might have been for episode 18. For when, so like none of the preview, like the conversations they have in the previews for the next episodes actually have anything to do with the episode.
Okay.
So they got the author for Konosuba to write the episode preview for episode 18. And the voice actor for Emilia, Rie Takahashi, is the same as the voice actress for Megumin from Konosuba.
Oh,
So they have like Emilia saying like, "Oh, the darkness is enshrouding me, like the pain welling up and the fires," and like Subaru was like, "What are you talking about, Emilia?" And she's like, and then she keeps talking. And she's like, "And now I must say, Ekusaburo." And then Subaru's like, "No, you can't talk that. We don't have the copyrights to that."
oh, that's really funny.
It's absolutely hilarious. So it's like her saying, "Ekusaburo," and it just cut off.
That's great. I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, I'll find it,
Yeah,
and then we can include a link to it somewhere in the description. Although I
Yeah,
always
I'll
say
watch
that, and we
too.
never
That sounds
do.
great.
Well, this time I'm saying this while I'm editing it. I'll hear myself remind myself to ask you for the link.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we got a 6, 7, 8, and I think that's like pretty reasonable for what people would think about ReZero.
Yeah, I mean,
And
there's some people who thought a lot more of it, and there's some people who absolutely hated it.
Right.
And I honestly think that both of those are because of the hype. Like,
Well, an 8 for me is pretty much just like I was entertained basically from beginning to end. I didn't really have like there wasn't really any points that it dropped off for me at all. So
Okay.
yeah,
I liked it. Didn't
Yeah.
love it. I liked it.
There were just so many like small bits and pieces here and there that were just like mind-blowingly amazing.
yeah.
I did find it kind of weird how the meta humor. It had meta humor, like self-aware, like breaking the fourth wall at some points, and like not others at
Oh,
all.
yeah.
Like at the beginning when they're a fight at the beginning, and some characters like charging up an attack, or he's like stalling for time, and he's like turns to the camera, and he's like, "But wait, folks, there's more," and then like goes back to like stalling for time. It's just like
Oh yeah.
kind of weird, or like in like the first fight where it's like, "Oh, we totally got her. She must be dead," and Subaru's like, "Don't set that flag. Like, don't say that."
Oh, one of my favorites is just because like this is one of my favorite like references that comes up. Like when Subaru wakes up in a bedroom, he's like, "Oh, it's another unfamiliar ceiling," which is a reference to Evangelion. But so I just
Yeah.
thought that was really funny because
Yeah, I like that. that I thought I laughed way harder at that when I was watching Evangelion than I should have. Like when the episode starts and Shinji's laying in the bed and he looks at the ceiling and says, "I don't recognize the ceiling," and then it does a hard cut to the title screen that just says Episode 2, Unfamiliar Ceiling. I started laughing so hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's ReZero. I guess we all enjoyed it for the most part.
Yeah.
So we can go into our next show, which I feel like if we're talking about only summer and not including ReZero, which started in spring, if we're talking about only summer, I feel like Mob Psycho 100 was the general consensus anime of the season.
Going from 0 to 100, I see.
I haven't
Really? Like, okay.
I haven't caught up on it, so I can't comment on it terribly yet.
Okay.
I definitely am going to continue it because people I trust say that it's really good, but I wasn't that impressed with like the first couple of episodes.
Oh, for
Okay,
sure.
Okay, so I didn't care for the first half like at all. The second half I liked a lot.
Okay.
I would say the same.
It transitions more into. There's a lot more fights in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more fighting. The stakes are a bit higher. You have some more characterization. Like the whole arc with his brother, like being jealous of his psychic powers, was really good. But like the first half of the season, I just thought was like.
I wouldn't even say
it's
like the first half. I'd say it's like the first like 3-4 episodes. It's like setting the stage, and it very much feels like a One Punch Man knockoff.
Yeah,
it was just like a whole episode would be like, we snuck into the school and now we have to exercise this.
Right.
ghost.
It felt very like one-offish.
all I
It
watched.
was very monster of the week at the beginning with no seemingly overarching plot of any kind.
But by the end, like, not only like, first of all, it's like the best animated fight anime I've seen since YZQ, the OVA series, and it's just like every episode is like that. It's absolutely nuts. Like One Punch Man can't hold a candle to it. Okay, maybe it can hold like half a candle, but like the point is, it looks amazing. But also,
that's one of the things that I did like about it, even like from the beginning, was that its art style is so unique and interesting, and that's one of the reasons that I'm going to keep watching it, regardless of not having enjoyed the beginning that much. But
and then the characters are like surprisingly so well done. Like Mob, like you get to see why like he struggles so much with his identity. And why, like, him and, like, his powers, like, he wants to have such a disconnect. How it's like for his little brother to, like, live with this prodigy of, like, psychic powers. And then, like, a lot of the side characters get so much development. And there's, even with, like, from the start, you get the sense that, like, Mob is, like, the most powerful being to ever exist. But that's, like, you're never sure that he's going to win every fight. It's not like Saitama where you're like, oh, all he has to do is punch the dude once and he's good.
Yeah, towards the end, when they get into more battles, there are like really powerful psychics that Mob actually, like he actually struggles with
so bad.
Yeah, and that's the character thing is heartening for me to hear because what really kept me from getting engaged and like going on, and I think we talked about this in the Impressions podcast, was that there was nothing there for me to latch onto in the first couple of episodes of something that I could care about. In any sense.
Yeah. Like, gives you that.
Like the con man dude wasn't hateable enough for me to be really mad at him, but he also wasn't charismatic enough for me to like kind of like him and get invested in his story. And Mob is just like Mob in the beginning, and you don't really get any insight into what he is. He's just kind of like.
Well, the con man guy Reagan, I hated from the first second I saw him, and I hated him all the way to the end. Worst character, actually brought the score down for me.
I liked Con Man. I think 17 will like it more than you, Smurf.
Possibly.
But because 17, the Mob, the Con Man in Mob Psycho 100 also gets a lot of development.
Okay.
In surprising ways, and I really liked him in the last couple of episodes.
Okay. I do want to jump back to one thing you said, and you guys are going to hate me for saying this because it took me until like halfway into the show before I realized that Mob's brother was younger than him. I thought he was the older brother for like so long. He looks older. He looks like an older brother. And so I was like, oh, he's the older brother who's like always there for his younger brother. I get that. That's good. I like that. And then it was like, oh no, he's the younger brother. Oh.
Guy. So for people who don't know, before this episode started, Smurf told us about how he didn't know what Mayaka's name in Hyoka was for the longest time.
No, and then we'll get to the 91 Days one, because the 91 Days one was worse.
Okay, so let's go. I mean, so I think Mob Psycho was really fun. It was like an 8 out of 10 for me. And like my runner-up for anime of the season.
I give it a 6.
Okay.
The first half turned me off too much. The second half definitely redeemed it a bit for me, but like the second half made me excited for more, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that whole facility, like everything that happened in that facility, basically. It was good.
But yeah. So we're gonna keep with the numbers theme and go to 91?
We can, yeah.
All right. So I'll kick it off since I'm the only one who apparently like really liked it.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So for starters, like kind of my impression of 91 Days was it starts off, and I think the first episode is one of, if not the strongest first episode that I have ever seen. In the sense that it had subtle characterization from the beginning, that it just handled everything very nicely with them sort of messing with the candle in order to kind of give you a feel for what their characters were. The beginning was suitably dramatic, and then it just completely stops the pacing to go through like a bunch of establishing shots of the city, which was just really great for setting the tone and atmosphere. And I don't think any point in the series matched what I felt was the quality of the first half of the first episode. However, I did think that it was still a very good show if it went a little downhill later on, and to me, the ending kind of brought it back into the point where I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, I think, although it's iffy on the 8 to 7 range.
So
can go into
I also liked the first episode a lot. I think the first episode is tied for me for the best episode of the series. I watched the first half and I was really engaged with what was happening, like with Avilio's with his childhood and the setup for the story. Then about the halfway point, someone who doesn't watch anime came downstairs and ended up watching the second half of the episode with me, and they were actually pretty engaged too, because like during the whole trying to sell off their illegal alcohol, and then Fongo shows up and just starts blasting a machine gun everywhere. They were like kind of engaged with it because they were like, oh, this, like, when I think of anime, I think of like schoolgirls and power ups. But she's like, this is much closer to like an actual show. So I think it did a good job with like its setting. Like it actually felt realistic for the most part. And I thought the first episode was great. I was really excited for it for the rest of this show until I started watching the rest of the show.
I also loved the first half of the first episode, and then I think it just went all downhill from there. I mean, it peaked really high. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like my favorite first episode of all time. I think that still goes to Code Geass for me personally.
Okay,
just because it's a really good first episode.
Yeah, because that first episode just like drew you into the world so completely. But like 91 Days first half was really great, especially to people who love mafia or mob movies. I think is really good.
And all the Godfather references were so great.
I mean, the logo itself.
Yeah, of course.
91 Days. But to me, like, it set itself up to where I think it would have been better as like a 6-part OVA series almost, because the middle was a little, shall we say, middling.
and I'll say that I think like the first couple of episodes were good. Like I liked the second episode a lot because it set up the like, oh shit, they're actually gonna like proceed with this quickly and not just give us this like long, like drawn out kind of game, but instead like have the plot progressing from episode 2.
Right.
Just with introducing character deaths and things like that, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed its irreverence towards death as well, where it'll just kind of like, you'll kill someone and you'll move on, except for one notable death later on, which kind of bugged me, actually, where I felt like they lingered on a certain person dying for too long.
Right, I feel you on that.
Because I thought what was good about the show was that someone died, you saw the characters' reactions to it, and they were clearly affected by it, but you as the audience, they didn't try and make you feel the feels that the characters were.
Yeah, that
just happened.
That's an issue I have with a lot of shows, is when like something sad will happen, and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of sad, and the show's like, no, you don't understand, this was really sad. Look at how sad this is. Listen to our sad music, and now we're going to do a flashback montage of all the happy moments that the characters had together. You're going to cry at this.
Smurf, do you have like something you want to say? Like, I feel like you're being very specific with this.
Yeah, and except for that one instance in 91 Days, it does an excellent job of never doing that.
Right.
Okay, yeah, it's not a show that aired this season. But the whole sad, you're going to be sad whether you want to be sad or not, bothered me a lot for the entire run of Clanad. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh no!
What a shocker, Smurf.
I don't want to get into that.
But no, but with 91 Days, I thought I wanted to be more character driven, but I felt like it was more plot driven, even though its characters could be really good.
Yeah, and that was sort of the thing, which is why the midsection was a lot less good than it could have been. But it's also why I loved the final episode, because I think the final episode was excellent subtle character development that you really hadn't seen since early on.
See, I thought the opposite of the final episode, because I felt like, okay, they're trying to do too much too soon with too little background in order to pull it off. And so to me, it felt like they wanted to pull off the final episode in the way they probably imagined, but they didn't have enough foundation laid in order for it to really resonate or make sense. With me personally, at least, I know like you, and there are quite a few people out there who feel the same way as you. But just to me, like, it was a plot-driven show that tried to have a character-driven ending, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that does make sense, but I also... so I guess, to me, what got me and kind of sold the atmosphere was how, and without spoiling anything, how kind of to sell the feeling of the first half of that episode being completely irrelevant to the character's psychology. Like, it was completely confusing and just kind of nonsensical, where it just kept cutting back and forth between things, and you almost felt like it was bad directing. And then, all of a sudden, they just spend a ton of time just on driving. And... and you're kind of like, oh, this is what they're kind of trying to sell the importance of. And I started liking it more and more as that, like, second half of the episode went on.
I mean, I see why people would like it. You mentioned they had subtle characterization. I didn't think that the final episode did anything new. I felt like everything that happened in the final episode had been set up through characterization from like 5 episodes ago.
It had been to a certain extent, but it also...
Like, I almost feel like if I watched if I'd like skipped like 4 episodes and then seen how the characters acted at the end of the final episode, I'd have been like, oh yeah, well of course they acted that way. That's how they've been the whole time.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know if, I think that's true to an extent, not like completely. I think there's something I like the 4 or 5 episode mark. I think maybe like the 2 or 3 episodes. I think like especially episode 10 and 11 set up the characters to act in the way in the finale.
I tend to exaggerate a lot, but
no. I totally get what you mean though.
Yeah, no, I do get what you mean. Yeah, I would agree with that, but I also think that it was. I think that what was nice about it was less that it was setting something new for the characters, but it was really putting you in their heads throughout that episode through just kind of focusing on the minutia of them driving together, and just like every little thing that was going on. Like, there was a lot of attention to detail,
Right.
Throughout that I think really kind of sold it, which is why I think, and I also liked episode 11. I think episodes 11 and 12 were really good.
I liked the episode. I liked the transition from the ending of episode 10 to 11. I thought those were really well done, especially because in those, like, it's towards the end, and they handled the, outside of that one death, the irreverence of death very well.
Yeah, exactly. And so I honestly liked most of episode 10, actually, because that's the one with that one death, right?
Right.
I liked most
Okay.
of that episode, but then when the death actually happened, I was just kind of taken out of it because I was like, this show doesn't do this.
Right.
Well, it didn't bother. Like,
I think it made sense in context of that one, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I could see it totally being a me thing, but for me personally, it just felt jarring from the tone that the show normally went for.
I don't know. To me, it felt the same as the rest of the show. It didn't feel like it was like out of nowhere or like drawn out, and it just felt like the same as everything else in the show.
No,
So-
no, it didn't feel out of nowhere, but it felt, I don't know, they just had like that kind of flashback montage that was a little bit much for me.
Right.
Especially since I didn't
Okay,
necessarily
maybe.
care that much about the character in question.
Oh yes, for sure.
But
For me, though, I will say what I also liked when talking about the deaths. A lot of anime, when like a character is about to die, they like put on dramatic music, like even if it's a side character, and then like
Yeah.
their death is in like slow motion, and like their eyes are like wide as they look at the person who shot them. But like in this show, like you die. Like even if it's a gruesome death, like the camera angle doesn't change, the music doesn't change. They just like
Yeah, there's oftentimes like no music when someone gets killed, at
Yeah.
least at the beginning of it.
pretty early
Um,
on, there was a character who I thought was going to be a big deal for the whole
Yeah.
show, and
Oh,
it was like
yes.
2, 3, 4 episodes somewhere around there. They're just like, it's like, oh, okay, like this, it's happening, and it's like, oh, they just died. It's like, oh, what? They
Yeah.
just died? What happened? And I'm like, okay, well, they're not really dead because I mean, they're gonna be important. But then everyone's just like, oh, he's dead. Okay, well, moving on.
Yeah.
Like, oh. Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
and that was one of the things that I personally really liked about the show.
Yeah.
I don't know. So overall, to me, the good well outweighed the bad. I'm giving it either a 7 or an 8. I'm deciding whether or not I like have the heart to rate it above like Clanad and Princess Kaguya. But,
whoa.
yeah, because those are my
Kaguya
upper bar
hit
of
it.
7, and
Yeah.
it is hard.
Yeah, I feel you.
They are the gatekeepers of my 7s.
My score, I give it it's an easy 5 for me.
I would have given it a 5. No.
So okay, so my issue with 91 Days is that I felt really bored a lot of the time. Pretty much every episode, with the exception of like the first episode, the 10th episode, and the 11th episode, I felt bored for the first like 17, 18 minutes, and then at the end, something really cool always happened. And I was engaged at the end of each episode, but the majority of each episode run, I was pretty bored.
I can see that.
See, to me, I felt like a lot of it, and maybe it's just because I'm a massive Godfather fan, was that it. Yeah, I know. Was that it was building? Was that it was just building atmosphere through a lot of it? Like a lot of the music and kind of the like very slow kind of buildup of the plot was to make those last couple of minutes be really atmospherically impactful. And they were also just kind of nice and soothing to watch in their own right, just for being this very like classic feeling mobster show sort of thing.
I would almost say that I feel like it's a victim of the standard anime length. I feel like it could have cut a lot, not a lot, but I felt like if it was like 8 or 9 episodes, it would have been better.
I mean,
If it was just
this
like
season
slightly more compact. I mean, that's not you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta add in some padding here and there to fill out your story. But so I'm not like super upset about that. But I feel like it could have been. It could have kept me engaged more if it was shorter and a bit more compact.
Yeah, and while I didn't feel not engaged at any given point, I do agree that the story could have been more condensed, and I think it would have been better for it, because I think a lot of why the show wasn't as great as it really could have been, because like at the beginning it felt like it could have been masterpiece level, and what they were going for at the end, because even if you don't like what they did at the end, you understand like what if they had had more build up to it, like that could have been great.
Oh,
As
for
they
sure.
compacted down the middle and like had like a little more direction through the middle, I think the show could have been truly amazing.
Right. I definitely agree with you. I mean, we had an 8-episode season this summer season with Arslan. Second season was 8 episodes, and we had Planetarian, which was 5 episodes.
As the day of recording, the subs for the final episode of Nanatsu no Taizai, which was a 4-episode run this season, just came out this morning. That's just felt like 4 OVAs though, so that's not really.
Yeah. So I think with 91 Days, I think you guys are right in that sense. But I guess like there were some parts that like were at first were like really weird, but later came to be like really important, like the lasagna. Like how much emphasis they put on lasagna was like, oh, okay. So like they handled that really well. So if they had more like lasagna stuff, it would have been alright. But like the one Mexican dude who comes out of nowhere, and it's only
they go with the poncho.
Yeah, the poncho dude.
Yeah, that whole episode just seemed kind of like unnecessary to me.
Yeah. That was probably my least favorite episode because it did do some like I understand why it needed to be there for the story of like kind of the bonding between Nero and Devilio, but it's the only part of the show that to me felt cartoony.
Yeah.
It definitely.
It just felt oddly out of place with the tone of everything that would come before and after.
Right.
But
Nero isn't a real name. Do you mean Vincent?
Oh God, that
shit. Okay. So before we started recording, and this goes back to what we were talking about when I said that I thought that the younger brother was the older brother from Mob Psycho. For 91 Days, up until episode 11, I thought that Vincent and Nero were the same person, and that I thought that Nero was just a nickname and his real name was Vincent. So I thought it made sense. I was like, okay, so the other Mafia people call him Nero, but his family calls him Vincent. That makes sense to me.
So then who did you think the guy with like the scar and like the desk was?
That was the Don. Right? Vincent was the Don of that group, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah, he's the Don. Yeah, whatever. they call him Don, and they're talking to him.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 6. I really thought it could be a 9 material. But
exactly.
So I think and we'll get to more shows this way. I think the theme of this season was like lost potential, like shows that could have been so much better than they were. Like ReZero could have been so much better than it was. Mob Psycho I thought was pretty like close to what it could have been. I thought it even exceeded its expectations, but like 91 Days could have been so much better than what it was.
91 Days from the first episode, I was thinking it could end up being my favorite anime of all time, and it's not nearly there now.
Yeah,
I legitimately did. The first episode blew me away. I swear to God. But I don't know.
It's a theme too because like Orange had that same mentality with a lot of people. Battery had like all the parts necessary for it to be like a masterpiece. Cheer Boys could have been like the next Free with like even more characterizations in an older setting.
Because they're college and Cheer Boys. They're like college.
Yeah, they're university. Yeah. They're university age kids, which I thought. That's cool. But like all of these shows just didn't meet those expectations, which is kind of sad.
Starting high and they just kind of. The whole thing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Orange. I think we can move on to Orange.
And we're off numbers now.
We are off numbers, but we can get to my stupid joke that I made earlier when I said something about wrong produce for animation quality because I felt like there was an episode of Orange where they all looked like potatoes.
Just one episode, Smurf?
Just one? Did you only watch one more episode after like episode 5 and then just stop it because they looked more like potatoes than people?
There was some issues. Episode 9 was by far the worst animated episode this season.
There were
but also Taboo Tattoo
this season.
No.
Have you seen episode 9 of Orange?
I have seen episode 9 of Orange. I've also seen the clip art, like, okay, we'll get to Taboo Tattoo when we get to
it. With Orange, like, they forgot to draw faces sometimes, and when they did remember to draw them, like, their eyes would be where their ears are supposed to be.
Man. There was a point.
Some of those things were just horrific.
I took some screenshots, but there's an episode. It's in, like, the sports festival thing. One of the characters' mom shows up, and her eyes are like the size of her head. They're so big. Like people say things about like Clannad and other key shows for having big eyes, but this mom's eyes were massive. They were the biggest eyes I've ever seen. And then it immediately cuts to the main characters, and he's the main character whose face is all just completely fucked up because like his mouth is like diagonal and his eyes are out of place and his face looks like it's melting. He sees some tall people and he goes, "They're huge," and I was like, "Yeah, they are. Her eyes are huge. Good job, guy. You figured it out." He's even making fun of himself now.
Orange
but
could have been.
The animation was just. Oh, that's what I read about the animation. The actual story, I enjoyed. I did have some big issues with it. Naho was one of the most frustrating main characters I've ever seen.
Poor Kanahana. Poor Kanahana.
Yeah. Like it starts off, right? In the first episode, it's like, okay, seems like a good shoujo with an interesting premise. I'm down, right?
With really good voice acting by Kanahana to like solidify.
And then you get like partway through, and they're just like, okay, let's figure out how to drag this out for like 5 episodes with 0 progress.
Drama.
It was so.
Okay. Now that we've done that, let's introduce the most bullshit reason for time travel mechanics of all time before having like an actually kind of good ending episode. But by that point, no one cares.
I feel like so okay. For people, I don't know if they know, there is a time travel element in this. The premise is that they get letters from their future selves telling them how to fix things.
Naho does. Naho does, yeah. Right.
Naho gets a letter from her future self saying how to fix things. So they kind of give an explanation for it, and it was just awful. I almost feel like in the manga, like when the manga was coming out, like the author put in the thing and just got a ton of like negative criticism because the final episode, like one episode ended with this is how we're gonna do, like this is how the time travel works. The next episode just didn't even mention it again. They just like completely forgot about it. I think in the manga, like they got negative feedback and just decided, yeah, let's just not mention this ever.
You think so?
Because I don't know, it would have been so much better had they just ignored the time travel thing 100%.
I think if it was just left ambiguous, like, oh, somehow the letters were sent back. Okay.
That would have been so much better than what they did.
They were sent back through space magic somehow. But you don't need to worry about
friendship, through the power of nakama.
Well, it's a shoujo, so it'd be the power of love.
Oh, true. The power of I.
And you also had like all the manga fans talking about how genius the show was, and I was like, oh, is this going to be something like really kind of weird and experimental, like where the ending turns out to be like a thought experiment in their heads as they're like trying to recover from a guilt? It's like any number of things like that. And it's like, no, we're just gonna come up with a bullshit.
I'm not really sure
reason.
Where all the hype came from. Like it was enjoyable, but I don't think it was like, guys, you have to watch Orange. It's going to be like the best show ever.
What makes me really nervous is like Orange got like pretty like well known in the manga community as far as I could tell, like around the same time as Koe no Katachi or Silent Voice.
Okay, and that has a movie coming out.
That has a movie coming out by Kyoto Animation, and I was like so hyped for Orange because I loved the manga for Koe no Katachi, and I was like, oh man, like these two back to back, it's gonna be great. And now I'm like, I really hope no one thinks Koe no Katachi is gonna be at all at like the Orange film.
Well, are you looking forward to the Orange sequel movie though?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah, the Orange sequel movie actually sounds like it might be more interesting than the show.
It's gonna follow Suwa, which a lot of people think is like the best character.
Yeah, so they're probably not going to fuck up the animation. We get Suwa. I can see it being good.
Hopefully we get more of the OTP of the Genki girl and the glasses guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Amethyst.
Hey.
Okay, but like legitimately that is the best couple.
But legitimately they are the best couple.
I'm not saying I disagree.
No, but that also...
They're better than Naho and Kakeru. Let's be real.
Oh, for sure. It could have been such a good anime. It was even directed by the Steins Gate guy. It looked... The first couple episodes looked great. Let's be real.
The first couple episodes looked great. Yeah.
The first 2 episodes looked great. It looked beautiful. The direction was on point.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of like... I don't know. I kind of got like a eerie vibe out of it, too.
Unintentional horror?
Like, I didn't think it was going to go horror. I didn't think it was going to go, like full another or anything. But...
No, I mean
I
with
don't
like the animation quality, it's like unintentional.
Oh yeah,
horror-esque body
oh
horror.
god, they're melting. What's in the lunches?
You should have just gone like at full Evangelion episodes 25 and 26 for the end.
No. Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed Orange. I definitely got frustrated at points whenever Naho was talking, or not talking, as it made it being.
Yeah.
She has a lot of just like, I need to say this right now or else everything will go wrong. And then she just stares for like 30 seconds and then everything starts to go wrong. And she's like, I should have just said something. It's like, you should. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two
Got
things
it.
frustrate me about Orange.
Okay, so just side note, that is one of the things that I absolutely love about School Rumble as a comedy. Just on a complete and utter tangent of how it'll go into like the characters just like thinking in their heads, I need to be doing this and this and this, but time will progress like normal outside.
And the teacher will be like, "Why are you staring out into space?"
I've seen
yeah, or just like the person they were trying to talk to will have left like 20 minutes ago.
I've seen one clip from School Rumble where the main guy is like changing clothes and a girl walks in on him, and out of instinct he grabs her.
Oh,
and
that shit! Yeah.
covers her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, okay, this way she can't scream. And he's like, wait a minute, this looks really, really bad. Okay, what? Like, and he's like, oh god, if I let go, she's gonna scream. Like he lets go. She's just like, oh yeah, you grabbed me so I didn't scream because this is all misunderstanding. Yeah, I get it. And just like walks away. It's like, oh, okay. Like,
oh god, I just love in School Rumble how everyone is just the right kind of retarded. Anyway, completely off track.
The curry scene, the curry shop.
Oh man, the curry shop. What do you love more, me or curry?
It's like, I understand now.
he hesitated.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, okay.
And also,
so
like
I think
the entire manga from Biker Dude was the funniest
Yes.
so. I think we're done talking about Orange.
Let's try to talk about School Rumble. You gave Orange a 7 and you gave Hyoka a 5, and I think
Okay,
I'm gonna
well-
cry myself to sleep now.
Hey, whoa, okay.
thing. Okay. Quickly though, what do we all rate Orange?
I give it a 7.
Okay. I give it a 5, I think.
4.
4.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure everybody I know gave it between a 5 and a 7. Never mind.
Oops.
Thanks, Fate. You're ruining my patterns.
I got you, fam. This is revenge.
Okay.
Very petty revenge.
I'll give Cardcaptor Sakura like a 3 there or something. So we can go to the next game, with the next show, not game, new game.
Which is the only one I can't comment on at all, so.
Okay, well, a lot of people I know watch New Game because a certain completely unbiased and fair mod changed the subreddit to /r/go watch New Game. And that completely fair mod is Urban, so if you want to be mad at him, then go ahead and do that. So New Game was pretty, I don't know. It was a slice of life show.
It was
and it
standard
kind of
Doga
stayed
Kobo.
with that. Yeah.
Standard Doga Kobo, like Sansa Sanyu, kind of cute girls doing cute things, moe, slice of life.
In the video game industry, which is apparently 100% populated by females.
Yeah, and one of the things I really didn't like about it, like more than other Doga Kobo stuff, is the fact that everyone looked like a lolly, but because they were 18, I guess they felt more comfortable about showing everyone's underwear all the time.
Right, like Yagami just
Hide it.
underwear all the time.
And it was just like, they look like they're 13. Why are you doing this? Why is this necessary? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was funny at times. It was sweet.
I liked it
kind
at times. There was a whole episode I couldn't watch. Like there was a whole half an episode where they were in a hospital, and I couldn't watch it. I don't do hospitals.
Okay.
So I just brought up like Skype or Discord or whatever and just covered the whole screen except for the subtitles so that I could still see what they were saying, but I didn't actually see anything because I can't.
Interesting.
I couldn't handle it.
Yeah. But overall, it was like standard fare. I gave it a 6.
Yeah, same. Give it a 6. Like, I didn't like it, but it was like, if it had done a little bit more, I think I would have liked it more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It had some fun moments. I think you had like the whole point where they just like accidentally spoiled everyone with their game on like their game.
Oh yeah. That was funny. That was a little funny.
They have like I don't know. I can't even I can't even think of examples of what happened in the show. I remember watching it. I remember enjoying it.
It was just a very forgettable passe show. It's not going to be one that like 5 years down the line people are like, oh, like the year 2016, you definitely have to watch New Game.
Right.
No, like it's not going to be like one of those.
Right.
Yeah, but 17, you can talk about Shokugeki, right?
I can talk about Shokugeki because I have read the manga, so you guys are in charge. But
okay, so we don't usually talk about sequels, but I guess we'll talk about Shokugeki. I was disappointed by this season a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked the first season. Someone on the sub named Mr. Fleur contracted it to me in November. And I watched it, and I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because I don't really care about cooking, and ecchi is kind of like, I'll watch ecchi, but I'm not like into it, you know.
Yeah. But at least the manga, I don't know about the show, gets significantly less ecchi.
The show, the thing with the show this season particularly is like, you could tell they like kept the girl around, and they were like, okay, they're gonna try this meal, and all their clothes are gonna fall off. It was like really annoying because like they kept doing it. And, like the only reason sometimes there was a girl on screen was just so her clothes could come off later.
Yeah.
And then the first few episodes felt really bad because the pacing felt really off. Because like they started and they're like, oh, like we're gonna start and finish this Shokugeki in one episode. Bam, 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 bam. So there was like no tension from episode to episode.
Damn.
So that's one thing I liked. So like, this is continuing the arc that the first season left off with. In the first season, I really liked how it would be like, okay, like they do a match, and then, or like before the match, there's like a lot of like character development of like them trying to like learn new dishes and all this stuff, and then they use that information, and then they just like kind of rinse and repeat that format, and it was fun because you got the matches and you got all the stuff between matches. The second season just did away with like everything between. So it's like one episode is one full Shokugeki, and then it's over, and the next episode is
or not
the
Shokugeki, I guess a matchup or that.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, one of them was a Shokugeki, but it's okay. But yeah, it was like this is a match. Okay, the whole episode is using that match with nothing before or after it. The
and
next
then
episode
they go to
is like entirely a match again, and the next is entirely a match again, and then again and again and again and again until they finish that arc, and then like, okay, well now we get to the arc that whoever directed the show seems to actually care about.
And that was fun.
And then they did a good job. It reminded me a lot of season 1. It had a lot of like character development and stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, I like that one again. I don't know. I feel like recently talking about Shokugeki with some friends, I've come to the conclusion that like I heard someone say it's like oh, I didn't like Shokugeki because it was just like a tournament arc. I was like, no, this is an example of how to not do a tournament arc.
Yes.
Like,
yes, 100%.
Tournament arcs can be great. You look at Yu Yu Hakusho, the Dark Tournament, like, amazing. And then you look at, like, Shokugeki, it's like, this is the example of a bad tournament arc in an anime.
So that honestly really sucks, because, like, I watched the first season, liked it a lot, and then while I was traveling, like, I just picked up the manga and read it. And it got ahead of where the show got to, and then the show came out, and I just never got around to watching it. But the manga never had a point where it felt jarring, so I have to assume that this is down to some issues with the adaptation.
Yeah, because
I heard from people who read the manga first, they didn't feel as much of the pacing issues, but I think that's because they knew what was going to happen. But for us, it's like, oh, like, this is going to be a really hype battle. Like, they're going to take, like, 2 episodes. It's like, with 5 minutes left, it's all over. And then they also left out some like really key parts. So like I've started reading again. And, like,
I've heard there's a whole character arc that's just not in the show.
Yeah, and they also left out like Megumi and Souma going to the elementary middle school class and teaching.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's like only like barely hinted out. They like give like
really?
a small picture in the right bottom of the quarter, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, I did this," and then just like doesn't address it whatsoever.
Okay, that's upsetting because the manga, like, just to me at least, felt like it just kept getting better and better. Yeah, it's a little disheartening to hear. I might not end up watching it in that case.
Yeah, I
But
gave it a 6.
The last 3, I gave it a. I don't remember what I gave it. I think I gave it a 6. I gave the first season an 8. I think I gave this one a 6.
Yeah, same.
The last 3. If you do want to watch it, just watch like the last 3 episodes. I don't know.
The last 3 episodes were really
they
good.
were really good. I actually liked them. Watching those, I was like, this is the Shokugeki that I liked. That I gave an 8 way back,
Right?
Like a year ago.
I
But
really
the first
liked
9 episodes were just not good.
Yeah.
So I guess we have like time to go to one last show, which we can talk about Taboo Tattoo, which was the ride of the season.
Oh man, anime of the year, anime of the century.
So Taboo Tattoo started out interestingly enough. It's PA Works. It had some really cool animated fight scenes.
Wait, Taboo Tattoo is PA?
It is.
Whoa!
You didn't
I
notice?
did not know.
Okay,
I mean,
at
I
some
didn't
point-
watch it.
Did you
but,
watch?
like-
Did you watch Charlotte?
Yes, I did watch Charlotte.
At some point, go look at a picture of Bluesy Floozy and tell me she doesn't look like Now from Charlotte.
Wait, it was done by JC Staff.
I'm an idiot then. It is JC Staff. You're totally right.
PA Works' big show this season was Kuromukuro, which was like
Yeah.
their 10th anniversary show. They're not gonna do another show.
You're right. I'm dumb. Okay, it is JC Staff. It's those 2-letter words. Those 2 letters in a word. They're confusing. So it's JC Staff. I kind of feel like JC Staff knew that the show was just going to be completely off the walls insane. So I think they took this opportunity to test out new animation things, like all the fancy camera work during fights. I think they just used the show just to test those.
That would make sense because like it does start off and they do like some weird camera work stuff that's that starts off and you're like, oh, this could be cool, and they're kind of doing it for every fight, and then all of a sudden the animation just tanks, and and I think that they assumed that by the point the animation was tanking, no one would be watching anymore because the story had already gotten, but I don't know, like it has this period where it's like it starts off and I'm like, okay, this is just going to be standard trash, and then it just breaks some barrier where it gets beyond insanity and starts to become hilarious.
I saw the best. I was looking through the Taboo Tattoo threads after it aired. Someone, I don't remember their name, but someone said, I think it was in the final episode. Someone's like, okay, so I dropped this in episode 1. What happened? Did it become a train wreck? And someone's like, this is a train wreck that flew off the rails, somehow landed onto another set of rails, and then wrecked off of those.
Yeah. It's just this really bizarre like mix of things, right? Like it is so stupid and generic, but then also sometimes it's really self-aware. Like there's the whole death flags guy, and they have the entire conversation about how he's giving off death flags, and
He's like, hey, when I get back, I'm gonna marry you, and she's like, don't say that. That's a death flag. You're not gonna live now. And he's like, no, it's okay. I'm the protagonist in your story. And she's like, yeah, but you're the side character for all of these other people's stories. And he's like,
no, I'm a professional protagonist. He's spent the rest of the show being like,
he's like, no, that's okay. Here, I bought this doujin, and it's my favorite, but I'm gonna read it with you when I get back. And she's like, why are you saying this? He's like, don't worry, I'm just gonna go fight the bad guys and come back totally safe. Don't worry about it. And she's like, stop saying this.
And so it's moments like that when you're like, okay, the show is succeeding as a comedy. And then at other times, like it feels like it's trying. And I don't understand why the show ever would feel like it's trying.
It
has characters named Bluesy Floozy and Blackstone. Just
and Justice. I don't know how they got Sugita involved in this.
Sugita just keep getting them checks. Keep getting them checks.
His entire character. He's basically the Speedwagon of Taboo Tattoo. It's a good way to describe it. He's always just on the sidelines screaming about things or getting hurt. That's all he does. And then they have Colonel Sanders, no, Brigadier General Sanders, but call him
They
Colonel.
call him Colonel Sanders. Oh man. And like they got to the end, and it was the point where they were just like sliding clip art across the screen instead of like having running animations, or or like it got legitimately like near Inferno Cop levels.
Oh my gosh.
And as we were talking about before this started, there was this entire like CG fight scene at the end where they just zoomed in so far you couldn't tell what was going on, and it just kept cycling through the same two like punch animations.
So it'd be like these two like CG things where like fighting. They would go to punch, their fists would connect, the camera would zoom in on the connection, and then zoom out and in and out and in and out, like it's really fast, like to get like the impression that like something's happening, but it's really just zooming in and out repeatedly. And like nothing's moving. And it was just really, really bizarre. Like,
it was almost impossible to follow the story because the direction was so bad.
Like there was like a whole episode that was like flashback, and I didn't know it was flashback until the end.
Yeah, and they just kept cutting to like random shit, and you're just like, what is going on? When is this? Where is this? Why is this? And then you just kind of stop caring at some point and just start laughing because that's the only way to handle it.
Yeah, like the first couple episodes, I was like, "Oh, I'm interested. This is gonna be cool." And then there was like a chunk in like the middle where I was just like, "This is kind of boring." And then like the whole end was like, I can't stop watching this. It's so bad.
For me, I called it being bad from episode 1, I will say, but I just kept watching because I don't even know why, and it just got progressively worse. And then all of a sudden, it was just gold. Like it hit a point where it past that barrier for me, and I just loved it.
It had a lot of contradictions too. Like they all have tattoos, and to use your tattoo, you have to use you have a trigger. So like one person has like if like chalk touches their tattoo, it activates her. Another guy has bullets. The main character
touches his tattoo.
Yeah, so like he pulls out like a bullet, like sticks it in his palm, and like closes his palm, and then he gains powers.
I was thinking like he has to get shot. I'm like, that's a one-time use tattoo.
So the main character,
I don't understand how people get shot and are just like meh in that show, and then also just oh god.
So the main character's trigger is like blood, so he like carries around like packets of blood and like squeezes them to like, activate his tattoo. But then they tell him at one point, they're like, "You have the triggerless tattoo," and he's like, "Okay," and it's like, but you still have to use your trigger to activate it. And I was like, then why is it called that doesn't make any sense. It's triggerless, but you still have to use the trigger? That makes it not triggerless anymore.
Oh god. I do love it though, just because they'll do things like in that show where they're like just bring in a character who shows up to die, like in that episode. And they're just like, and they just like clearly like give that character like a bunch of death flags, like they then make fun of later. And they're just like, nope, Andy's gone. And
but by the end of the show, I was just rooting for the guy who set off all the death flags in that one scene. I was just rooting for him to live. I'm like, I don't care about anything else. I just want him to live. In fact, I actually made this thread will be out by the time this episode comes out, so don't worry about it. But I did the 3x3 Thursdays, and for this week, which I'm doing my favorite characters from summer. I have him on my list. That's how much I loved that guy, but I didn't care about the rest of the show at all.
That's great. Oh man, that show was just a surreal. I'm like, come on, fucking trip.
You can do it. You can live. You can beat the flags.
Oh man.
But if you guys wanted to watch an actually good show, you guys should have watched Konobi. Kono Bijutsubu niwa Mondai ga aru.
What is it? Art club is always.
The art club has a problem. Yeah. It was so much fun. Oh my god! You guys didn't watch, like neither of you watched it, right?
No, I don't really watch I don't usually watch like the moe slice of life shows. I don't know why I watch a new game.
It's not really moe. It's just like slice of life comedy. It's like moe, like Nozaki-kun is moe.
Okay.
But like also like it's funny because the voice actress for the main girl, Usami, is Ozawa Ari, who you guys might know as the main girl in Rolling Girls, which I really liked, one of the main girls in Class Crisis, and also Chio in Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun. So it's great because like she really has been typecast because of this role, like as super talented artistic girl in a club who likes boy who's very dense but is very devoted to his like manga anime related stuff, and so can't tell about her feelings even though everyone else in their circle knows about it. Like it's like Chio is in like the same show again.
It sounds like Chio. So what Pokemon is she like?
So is there a bunny Pokemon?
Yeah, there's like a bunny or a low bunny.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
because like a Spinda's kind of a bunny.
Oh, a Spinda.
It's kind of a bunny.
But yeah, it was hilarious. It was really sweet. It was surprisingly sweet, and there was like a panty shot in the very beginning, and like but like they make fun of it a lot, and they make fun of like anime culture and just like otakus a lot because the main guy is just like obsessed with drawing waifus. And like his whole thing is like
literally waifu bait.
He's like, I hate 3D girls. I only care about 2D girls. So he just draws like his own original waifus and submits them to like official contests, like art contests as well. But they look so good, like composition wise, and like the lighting and the drawing and the painting is like already good. But he just is obsessed with drawing like cat-eared girls in swimsuits.
That's really funny.
And like the girl is like trying to get him to notice her and like trying to get him to notice the 3D world. So it's like a nice back and forth. And I just really, really liked it. That was my anime of the season.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch it. Maybe I'll check it out someday. I've heard good things. The people that I know that watched it did like it, so that's always a good sign.
Everyone on my Mal friends has given it either a 7 or 8, which is kind of like surprisingly consistent.
Okay, yeah,
I gave it an 8.
I always like when you have like the consistency. Like if I look at like Shirobako and look at my friends, it's like all 8s through 10s. Like across the board.
I feel like Shirobako lower than 8 is kind of a crime. Kind of.
Well, I think it is. Like I'm like the action. I'm like the action guy. I don't watch anything other than action, and I have Shirobako at a 10.
Yeah,
that's fair. But yeah, it was so much fun, and they handled like the romantic tension between the two really well. I thought anyway. Some people out there don't think so, but I think so. And they had like a lot of other references.
I thought you were calling me out. I'm just used to you calling me out for things. I was like, whoa, what? I didn't even see the show. Oh wait, no, you must have. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
There was like at one point they go into like a bookstore and like all the posters are references to other anime and manga, but like with one letter differences.
I love that.
And it's great. And at one point he draws a waifu sketch that looks a lot like Tamako, so like that's honestly the reason why I love it so much, obviously.
That raised it from a 2 to an 8.
That single-handedly. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of sad that more people didn't watch it. Though quite a few people did. It was the only show that I kept up with every single week without lagging behind.
I don't think I lagged behind. I feel like I was really good about that this season. The only time I really lagged behind is if you had something like Kuromukuro or like Nanatsu no Taizai, where the subs were consistently like 3 or 4 days late because they're not legally streamed anywhere.
Yeah, well, not yet. Kuromukuro will be on Netflix in a couple weeks or months, I guess.
October 10th is when it will be up on Netflix.
Ooh, true, cool. Yeah, I liked Kuromukuro. It was it's like the second best PA works I've seen, which means it's like
PA works I've seen. Yeah,
it's like a 6.5.
I gave it an 8. It's great, loved it.
It was. The ending I thought was really good. I was worried they were going to screw up the ending because PA Works, in my mind, except for Shirobako, has always screwed up the ending in the worst way possible.
Well,
but they didn't.
They left up. I think we might get a sequel. There's a chance.
For Kuro?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd like a sequel. I think I would really like it if it just ended where it did. That's just me.
My favorite part in Kuromukuro was when PA Works got destroyed.
Yes, they destroyed their own studio.
So
and
these
they
like
put a sign outside their own studio saying it was destroyed.
Yeah, so I think they were doing construction on their studio. Like they were doing like some remodeling, and then in the episode they destroyed their like this spike fell from space and just destroyed their studio. Like there's even a sign out front that says PA Works, and the studio just got wrecked. And then in real life they put up a sign that's like, "Oh, we're currently under construction after the Epidog blew up, destroyed our studio." It's like
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, and they put like tarp over it as well, and they put like a faux like bill of how much it was gonna cost to like repair everything. It was pretty great.
Yeah, I like that. That was funny.
In that moment, I almost liked PA Works.
Ouch.
They're like
Jesus.
my least favorite studio on Malgraphs, I'm pretty sure.
I won't tell you what mine is. So.
Oh God, no, Smurf, no! Maybe next season will help boost you.
Maybe I'll get Kyoto animation off the bottom.
Wow, that's sad.
I'm gonna go now. Bye. I'm so hurt.
All right, so I guess that's summer. The only show we didn't really talk about that I think everyone should watch is just go watch Bananya because it's amazing.
Oh, Bananya! How could we forget about Bananya? Bananya was so good.
It's like 40 minutes, so it's actually shorter than this podcast episode. So
you could honestly just don't listen to this podcast and just watch Bananya.
Good job talking about the end.
Too late.
All right, so yeah, that was summer. Go ahead and tell us in the comments or whatever, like what summer shows you liked. I'm sure we missed a few. Actually, we missed my favorite of the season, but we don't have any time to talk about it. Saiki Kuso no Sainan, best comedy I've seen in a long time, so go watch it. Don't let the 85 episode count like turn you off of it because they're all like 4 minutes long, so it's like a core and a half. So yeah, so that's it. Anything else you guys wanted to say?
I'm just really disappointed that we didn't call this 91 Days of Summer. Or like, because like the movie 500 Days of Summer. Yeah.
Well, we can do that. I can call it that in like the title.
You have the power.
I do have the power. That's parentheses, right? Around 91.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay. How about you, 17?
Oh wait, sorry. What?
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else I need to add. I saw a lot less anime than you guys this season, so
Happens.
That'll be me next season.
yeah, college is bitch. So
Maybe I might be getting a job, so we'll see if I can watch
Grad
that.
school is not fun.
oh Jesus, I'm sure.
All right, so bye guys.
Adios.
Bye.